Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Jared here, and I'm going to do a concert review for Guns N' Roses live at the Ritz, New York, USA, from May 16th, 1991. Now, this concert was just released on Blu-ray. Guns N' Roses is doing some Use Your Illusion box sets and whatnot, and this was one of the editions. So really cool. This was filmed professionally on film, not on tape. 4K remastered, all that. The bootleg of this show from a video in the crowd has been circulating for years, but this is the first time we get to see the professionally shot footage. Really awesome that Axl's actually digging into the vault now, in the last few years and pulling out some really cool stuff like this. Gotta just say right off the bat, the quality was absolutely amazing. You wouldn't even be able to tell it was from 1991. It was so HD, crystal clear. You can see everything. But let me just first go through the set list, and then I'm going to kind of give some notes on a few different things relating to some of the songs. Got 1, Pretty Tied Up, 2, Bad Obsession, 3, Right Next Door to Hell, 4, Mr. Brownstone, 5, Dust and Bones, 6, Live and Let Die, Wings cover, 7, Paradise City, 8, Civil War with Jimi Hendrix Experiences, Voodoo Child, Slight Return intro. Then we got Matt Sorum's drum solo, Slash's guitar solo, You Could Be Mine, Patience with the Rolling Stones, I Was Only Joking intro, Knocking on Heaven's Door, which is a Bob Dylan cover, and it had Alice Cooper's Only Women Bleed intro. Then I got Don't Cry with Shannon Hoon, You Ain't the First with Shannon Hoon, and he's from Blind Melon. And then we got My Michelle, Estranged, Double Talk and Jive, Sweet Child of Mine, and Welcome to the Jungle to close it out. Very interesting set list, very Use Your Illusion heavy. Set list is kind of all over the place. The reason why it's Use Your Illusion heavy is because this is the third and final warm-up gig for the big Use Your Illusion tour, which would last around 3 years. It's pretty obvious to me that, they were just picking and choosing what songs they wanted to play, which I think is really cool. Nowadays, it's, virtually the same exact set list every single night, and almost even, some of the same things said in between the songs. So, this was one of the things I loved about Guns N' Roses back in the day. You never knew what the set list was going to be. Some of the songs you might expect to have maybe earlier or later in the set, but overall, for the most part, back in those days, the set list was always very varied. Let me just talk about some of the songs here. We got Bad Obsession. There was no harmonica, no Teddy Zigzag yet on the tour. So that was something I definitely noticed. Right Next Door to Hell. This is the second Pro Shot video we've ever gotten of Right Next Door to Hell, so I was super excited to see that. Before the song, Axl mentioned how the song's about his neighbor, and he's like, as some of you may know, which was interesting because, the song is about his neighbor, and the news report on MTV and there was just a lot relating to it, and a lot of people knew about it, the controversy he got in with that neighbor. It was just interesting to hear that because it was so fresh in everyone's minds. Mr. Brownstone, the first Appetite song out of the first 4. Then we got Dust and Bones, which has Izzy Stradlin on lead vocals. Now this was interesting because on the live album, Live Era 87 to 93, this is actually the version that shows up on that live album, and this live album was released back in 1999. So we've always had pretty much like the professional audio to this song, but we've never seen the actual professional video. And if you know anything about that album, there were a ton of edits and mixing and matching from different performances. So it was really interesting to see the video of it because it was completely unaltered, and there were many big differences that I noticed from watching it compared to actually listening to it all these years. A lot more Axl than there was on the record. And speaking of that, I just thought it was kind of comical because, this is really Izzy Stradlin's time to shine, and, he's in the spotlight and singing the lead vocals, and it was a little frustrating because, I don't know, about halfway, maybe 3/4 into the song, Axl just came out and just took over the whole song and just seemed like he wanted to be the center of attention, which was, kind of indicative of, how the tour was going to go, in my opinion. So, yeah, That was very interesting. And then they played Paradise City very early in the set, which was very surprising. I was actually wondering if maybe the songs were out of order, but they were not. They just wanted to play it that early. And this was another interesting one because I noticed there was a line in the song that I could distinctly remember from the Live Era version. Now, the Live Era version, for the most part, was from Las Vegas 1992. But once again, like I said, mixing and matching, lots of stuff going on with that album. The one line from this Paradise City from the Ritz was actually on the Live Era song. So yeah, very early in the set, it automatically made me think, oh man, what are they gonna close out the set with? Because they normally always close out with Paradise City. And then something interesting about Civil War was, like I said, this is very early on. This is months before Use Your Illusions even came out. So I felt like they were working through a lot of the kinks in the song still, and Axl mentioned how he hasn't, really been rehearsing with them, which once again is indicative of like kind of the negativity surrounding the band and Axl at that time. But you could just tell that they were you could just tell these songs were very fresh, and I feel like Axl was the one that definitely needed to rehearse these songs more. But then again, also, even with these mistakes, that's kind of part of Guns N' Roses' charm, is like they were never perfect. They were always raw. They were never polished, and you could expect these types of mistakes, but it didn't negate anything. But definitely something still definitely of note. But yeah, Civil War in the studio version, they have the Cool Hand Luke intro, and at this time they didn't have the intro to play over the speakers yet, so Axl just spoke the intro, which I thought was interesting. The Matt Sorum drum solo featured Duff, which was very prominent on the Use Your Illusion tour. He comes in like halfway through and just jams out with Matt. You Can Be Mine, a very, very important part of this concert. This song is what everyone knows this concert for, because they filmed the music video for this song at this concert. So of course, like, that was being mentioned and whatnot. Also, the other crazy thing about this song was Axl broke his foot jumping around and being energetic like he always is. He broke his foot during the song and had to wear a cast for a little while after this show. And yeah, that was really interesting because I felt like it really it slowed down the set, because then the songs after You Could Be Mine, you had a bunch of like slower songs, and I assume they did that. I don't know if it was coincidence or if it was like really related to Axl's foot, but either way, the set slowed down right after You Could Be Mine and Axl breaking his foot. So yeah, I wanted to mention that My Michelle was dedicated to Sebastian Bach, which is not surprising because Sebastian Bach loves that song and over the years has guested on that song numerous times. Shannon Hoon, as I said, was on Don't Cry and You Ain't the First. He actually plays on the album. And then Estranged, I thought was interesting because it was the first time really seeing Dizzy. I actually wasn't 100% sure if Dizzy was like officially in the band at that moment. But Estranged was the first time you could really see him and hear him. And it was obvious that, okay, he is here and he is in the band. So, Welcome to the Jungle, which is a great closer, but a very rare closer. Something that was interesting was Axl's security guard, Earl, actually carried Axl around the stage during this time. And then, yeah, let me just go into the band members and just some notes that I wrote about them. I thought Axl, this is the greatest shape he ever was in. I felt like he really did a lot of work on his workout and just really getting his body tone and ready for the tour and everything. And yeah, 1991 was definitely the best he ever looked. He had numerous outfit changes, which was, classic Axl. I will say his voice was good throughout the whole show, but however, I will say it did get worse as the show went on, which is actually very typical of those 1991 shows, because he started off with his normal voice with the rasp and everything, but as the show goes on, it starts to become more like of a growling rasp where he's just on the verge of cracking his voice every second and doesn't sound nearly as good. Actually sounds super detrimental to his voice. I'm glad that he never I'm glad that never like got worse and worse to the point that he couldn't continue the tour or anything like that. His voice did get better over time as the tour went on, luckily. He was super talkative, super talkative, and he got along with Slash well all night. They were constantly interacting and constantly talking. It's just so different compared to nowadays because they on stage they rarely have any interactions and they rarely talk, and it's just very interesting how different things were back then. As I said, Axl was super energetic, jumping around all night, especially in the beginning part of the show before he broke his foot, just jumping around everywhere. Something else that I really liked about this concert, which I thought was super interesting to me, was at one point Axl was wearing this black fur coat, and he went into explaining how he actually got it in New York, and I assume he got it recently at the time. But the thing that's interesting to me is that's the black fur coat that he wore in St. Louis when he dove into the crowd during Rocket Queen. And I had never seen that coat in any other concert ever. So to see it at this concert in the Ritz and hearing that he actually got it in New York right around the same time was very interesting, and I'm glad I got to see it in another concert. As I said, Slash was very talkative. He was on the mic a lot throughout the concert and dropping F bombs like crazy, which is funny because that's just classic Slash. One thing I did think was funny also was during the end of one of the songs, Slash went up to the mic and was gonna say something, how he wanted to like jam on something or lead into something. But right as he started talking, the rest of the band actually finished the song they were currently on, and Slash was like, "All right, well, fuck it, whatever. You can't do anything about it now." At one point, Duff stage dove into the crowd. I wanted to mention the crowd. I thought they were great. I was very shocked to see multiple mosh pits throughout the show. I don't really think of Guns N' Roses when I think of mosh pitting, but that definitely was prevalent at this show. This concert also featured multiple encores, which was also very prevalent for Guns N' Roses back in the day. But overall, like I said, I just wanted to say that I'm very happy that Guns N' Roses, released this. I think they did a great job on it. I don't think I was really worried they would over edit it and, try to really cut out mistakes or just have, just too many camera switches, annoying things. But overall, I don't have really any complaints about it. I thought it was a great show and just very classic. One of the very few Guns N' Roses things that have been released lately that I've really enjoyed, that I thought was really awesome. So hope you enjoyed the review. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you can comment, like, and subscribe, and I shall see you on the next one.